We're afraid to talk about this stuff openly, and I'm certainly not one to shy away from being creative and keeping the spice going. So, you know, we got to share with each other.
Making that video and watching that video, that could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes. Sexting within your marriage can be a good thing.
Yeah.
We've done it. We've done a video. You're free.
Right.
Enjoy. You have a question?
I think that the issue that couples have said, the reason they use porn is they say it helps to stimulate the both of them, which I don't believe that, but that's what, when they agree with each other. But it goes back to what you're saying, you know, you're allowing that sin to come into your life because you're watching other people, not what she's talking about, not their own video, but they're renting pornography on their TV or wherever they're getting it from, sitting down together and watching it, and then trying to go in their bedroom and duplicate that experience, and it really is impossible.
Right. It becomes a challenge. You were going to say something? I thought I saw your hand up, maybe then. But
I agree with her in that, and also you become addicted to it in that now your wife or husband can't please you.
Yeah.
And on that note, I will say this: when it comes to pornography, porn is perfect. Right? There are no hiccups in porn. There are no mistakes in porn. There are no inappropriate sounds in porn. There are no scratchy weaves in porn. There's no stank breath in porn. There are no varicose veins in porn. There are no droopy breasts in porn. There are no tiny penises in porn, right? So you're looking at what you believe perfection is, and then looking at the reality of you or your partner, and you become dissatisfied, right? But the reality is, it's just like it's just like dudes who look at Beyonce and say, "Wow, I wish my wife was like Beyonce." Beyonce's not even Beyonce.
That's right.
Half the stuff you see has been created. That's not her butt; she bought it. That's not her. You know what I'm saying? So people can be created and made to be what you see them as. You ever heard of Photoshop?
Yes.
A lot of Photoshop is used when you're dealing with picture pornography. So if that is your source, then that can cause a great problem and hindrance in your sexual life. Okay? What else? Locations, I think we talked about that. Okay? Communication, we talked about that. Timing, let's talk about that. Because a lot of times we get into patterns where the only time as parents that we can have sex is when the kids are asleep at 11 o'clock at night, when we know that there's no opportunity for them to get up, and it's got to be late at night. It's got to be in the corner of the bedroom so that there's enough space between us and the door. We put a towel underneath the door so that it becomes soundproof. So what I'm saying is that can become boring, predictable. Sometimes you want to switch it up. Sometimes you want to have sex in the morning. Sometimes you want to have sex in the afternoon. You know, when you were single, you had no problem driving an hour across town, meeting somebody for an hour in a hotel room, having a quickie, going back to work. Once you get married, all of a sudden, everything changes. That's where the monotony and predictability comes in. So just changing up the time of the day, the location of the place, the style of the technique brings in the newness that we're talking about. Openness and honesty. That's another emotional need. If you've ever heard of this book, you love it. And if you haven't, write it down. His Needs, Her Needs. His Needs, Her Needs by Dr. Willard Harley. And he talks about openness and honesty. And this is so critical when it comes to sex, because Danielle and I think, unless I'm mistaken, we're pretty honest and open when it comes to sex, and she has no problem communicating that. You know, she'll tell me what she likes, and I want that. I want her to tell me so I can please her. Vice versa, I tell her what I like, she can please me. So she talked about faking, right? And a lot of times we do that, or we don't bring up conversations because there's sore points in relationships. And so what we do is we enter into what? Dishonesty. And most of us lie, or we operate in dishonesty for 3 reasons. Number 1, to protect. We want to protect our partners from the truth. We want to protect our partners from hurting their feelings. we want to protect them and we want to cover them. So therefore, I'd rather not say how I really feel, because if I do, I know it's going to cause a problem. Or we protect to avoid punishment, right? I did something wrong. I don't want him or her to know. So I'm going to deceive. I'm going to be dishonest. I'm going to lie to keep from the punishment that I would face if the truth came out. Or we deceive and we are dishonest because we are compulsive liars. We just lie about everything. Now, most people don't fall into that category. Most people fall into one of the first two categories. But as it relates to your sexuality, if you're not open and honest when it comes to that, you're going to have major problems in your relationship. So we encourage you to continue to do that. Go ahead.
And you find that a lot of times, a lot of it is based on the way that a lot of people were raised. Tradition, we were taught certain things you didn't say, certain things you didn't do, to the point where a lot of times we'll keep things inside until you kind of grow to that point. There are a lot of things you won't say because your parents didn't do it. It wasn't discussed. I mean, let's be real. Sex wasn't discussed when we grew up.
Right.
It was kind of like through osmosis you learned, or you learned it in the neighborhood, you know, or you learned it from your peers, or your big brothers or cousins. It just wasn't something that was discussed in the household.
Right. And what happens is, as children, we learn through observation and participation. So whether what we saw was right or wrong, we emulate what we see. And we carry those same patterns and behaviors and thoughts into our adult relationships, right? So if we didn't have conversations about things, we just didn't discuss it. We just didn't discuss it. I mean, no matter what the problem is, you carry that into your adult, and that's why you have to create a new culture, right? And you have to establish new patterns in your new relationship, particularly as it relates to sexuality. Now, are there any questions about anything that we've discussed so far that you want to talk about? Any issue that you want to address that we haven't addressed yet as it relates to sex?
Well, let me just ask you this question regarding sex toys. Do you think they can have the same impact as porn could possibly have if you're using them maybe too often or whatever?
Well, all right, well, let's look at it like this. So if I have, as an example, a dildo, and I know that a dildo is permanently hard and long and strong. And I'm not. So now, my husband can't do what my dildo can do. So I'm going to go to my dildo to replace my husband. That could be a problem. That could be a problem. Maybe I have, I don't even know what they're called. I've seen them. It's not they're using them. But like they have these, you know, pocket vaginas. What are they called?
Bullets.
Bullets. Yeah, see, I know that. I'm just saying. So what I'm saying is, when you rely too heavily on inanimate objects as a replacement for your partner, it could cause a problem. It can cause a problem. So I think that there are certain things that you can use that stimulate and complement your sexual experience. And then there's other things that you can use that are used to replace your partner. And I think that's where it kind of goes down a path that it may be hard to come back from. You know, I know a lot of women and men who masturbate a lot. And they'll use tools to do that. And it's a replacement. And whether we're talking about toys, whether we're talking about porn, I know many, not personally, but based on research, a lot of men that prefer cyber sex than real sex with their spouse. Really. A lot. And so what happens is, when you get too heavily into things that are used as a replacement for your partner, emotionally detached, sexually detached. And the Bible says when two come together, they become what? But you can be torn asunder by allowing porn, by allowing certain things, certain toys to take the place of your partner, and that's when you go down a slippery slope. So, you know, that's where conversations really come in. Now, I will say at the same time that it seems like the person with the most sexual desire controls the relationship, or the sexual relationship, it seems like the person who has a lot of the apprehension, a lot of the baggage, sexual baggage from the past, are the ones that control the sexual relationship, and then it becomes unfair to the partner, who may desire new things, fresh things. And so I think the key is being open, right? Being open. Now, if there's things that I'm open to that my wife is opposed to, well, why is she opposed to that? Does it cause pain? Okay, that makes sense. We won't do that. Does it cause humiliation? Now we can talk about that, because what is your humiliation based upon? If it's based upon something that you've been taught or indoctrinated to believe, maybe we can work through that. But if I'm causing physical pain, or if I'm doing something that really demeans her as a woman, likewise me as a man, see, when you're engaging in sex, ultimately it's not about you, it's about what you're doing for your partner. And if you're both selfless, and if your objection is to please each other, you both are fulfilled. But if your object is, I'm just going to get what I want because I can get it, and your job is to please me, then you've already entered into the sexual experience completely wrong. So if it becomes an attitude of, let me discover you, let me please you, I think that will knock out a lot of the problems that we have as it relates to our sexuality. Does that make sense? What other, I expected you guys to be more interactive. You were quiet when it comes to the sex topic.
I'll share something. I really was thinking the same thing like you, that this would be a great, stimulating conversation for the couples. But before Winston and I got married, I had all of these ideas about, man, when I get married, because, I had been single for so long, it's going to be on and popping, I'm going to be waiting at the door. When he gets in the door, that song, You Are My Ministry, you guys heard that much, so I was thinking, oh, all of this. Well, I married a man who has a very high sex drive. And I thought I had a high sex drive, but he has a higher sex drive. So it's like, you're scratching your head, and you're wondering, like, man, how do I handle this? You know what I'm saying? And so literally we had to have those conversations.